Oh, without question, he's the most important part of that team to me. When he's healthy and playing at a high level, makes it really easy for Kevin Durant to do his thing offensively. Now he doesn't see as many double teams, and now the floor just really opens up. So this is the tough part about playing the last couple games of the season, and we wonder why coaches sit guys and want to be fresh. This game had no bearing, on it, and then now he gets an injury, and now he's still a process. He can't go as hard as he got. He's got to rest now to get that ready for game one. It may take him a couple games to get that back to 100%. So that's a big part.
And if it's nicked up a little bit going into that first series, I mean, you're playing a month straight of the most competitive basketball that they've played all year. So it's not necessarily always that injury, but then the wear and the tear between these series. So then it becomes important, man, how quick can they close guys out? So that they can continue to get rest. The ideal situation for every player is going into the playoffs 100% healthy. And that last night, it can alter the rest of the NBA, the championship, trying to three-peat. And Steph Curry is the most important warrior.
There's all the numbers confirm they are. Listen, with Steph and without KD, since this team came together over the last 3 years, they're 29-4. They have a better winning percentage in those games than they do the regular games. With KD, but without Steph, they're 28-17. That's a good team, but a beatable team. We know whether or not you think KD's better than Steph. That's debatable. Who's more important is not debatable. Now, I don't want to overreact to this because maybe he'll be 100% a week from today. You know what I mean? And even without Steph, they can win their first-round series no matter who they're playing. But we said, when we were grading their season, we said, what were their goals? Get the 1 seed in the West, ideally the 1 seed overall, but the 1 seed in the West, and to be fully healthy going into the postseason. We thought that was going to be the case, and we talked about it 2 days ago. Now there's a little asterisk next to it.
And we have to watch, too, anytime Steph has anything to do with his feet. If he had banged his knee or something, not as much caution because he hadn't had problems with his knee. If he had a problem with his shoulder, something else, we wouldn't be. But Steph's ankles, Steph's feet, especially wearing them Under Armour shoes, it presents a different set of, wow, he has struggled with this before, and is this something that cropped up from something old?
Well, it actually was kind of shocking that Steve Kerr would be playing these guys because they locked up the Western Conference. Man, they can't get to Milwaukee, but they got the Western Conference locked up, and you thought maybe he would sit them, but you do have to be cautious with Steph and his ankles because they are sensitive. He can easily have a relapse, and it can linger on throughout the playoffs.
Right. I think that Steve Kerr, he set part of them last night and was going to sit the other part of them tonight, and Steph was going to sit tonight, so he wasn't going to play. So that's what he was really trying to do.
Who steps up in case Steph can't go early on?
Kevin Durant. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, no. I mean, I'm thinking at the point guard position. I mean, Quinn Cook is a guy that plays some serviceable minutes for you last year in the playoffs. He wasn't bad. But, yeah, Kevin Durant will have to go on one of those tears offensively and be more aggressive.
Boogie Cousins going to the post. Because, see, you can't replace his ball handling. You can't replace the depth for which he's going to shoot. But Clay does a little more. Boogie Cousins becomes more part of the offense. Let's go with a post-up. But ultimately, they got Kevin Durant. He can clear it out. He can take anyone in the NBA. So
yeah, I mean, listen, I think the Warriors would have real trouble against the Rockets with a less than 100% Steph Curry, right? Because we saw them have trouble with the Rockets last year. And once Iggy went out in that series, that was a big moment in that series. That's one of the few postseason injuries they've had to deal with. But we are talking about next year, Kevin Durant plus one star-level player going to New York and making them championship contenders. All right, Kevin Durant, you got yourself, and if there's no Steph, two star-level players, Clay and Boogie. You should be fine up to anywhere you play other than Houston, which is built to beat you. Like, this is not a concern for them to me in this first round, whether they play the Clippers, the Spurs, or the Thunder. It's if it lingers past that, or as C mentioned, if he has another injury because of it. Like, by the way, why were they able to get Kevin Durant? Because of Steph's ankles. They got Steph on a discount contract years ago because people were worried about the long-term health of his ankles. Kerr called this an ankle sprain. The team called it a foot sprain. They're also saying he's going to be back for game one. I don't think this is a significant injury, but they might be lying to us. We'll find out Game 1 of the postseason Saturday or Sunday.
So, Antoine, I ask you, should the Rockets be worried about having to face the Thunder possibly in the postseason?
I believe so, because this is a tough matchup for them. They match up really well with Houston. Now, some things will have to take place if this series was to happen, because obviously OKC, I don't know if they can muster up enough offense to keep up with Houston. They made 16 threes last night. I don't think that's OKC's game, making threes. Then obviously the rebounding. They won the rebounding game. But what scares you, if I'm Houston, Russ can have one of those nights and beat you. Paul George can have one of those nights and beat you.
And you can have a night where you don't hit threes if you're Houston.
And you can take care of home. Right. Like they did last night. So this would be a tough series. And you want to, last night, I know Houston went in to avoid it, but it was almost a must-win situation. And when you're trying to get yourself prepared to make the best run possible to win a championship, you got to avoid certain teams. I talked to you guys a month ago about us avoiding the Chicago Bulls when I was with the Miami Heat. The first year we played the Heat, with the Heat we played the Bulls, they took us 6 games the year we won a championship. The next year they swept us. Our roster didn't change much. And they swept us. So you got to avoid certain teams that have your number. And I think it's also to the fear test. I don't think OKC is scared to play Houston.
Well, I think
they'll welcome that.
I don't think OKC's scared of anybody. And there is an element of, if you draw the Clippers in the playoffs this year, even though the Clippers, Spurs, and Thunder essentially have the same record and have for the last month or so, there's an element for the Clippers of, oh, my God, we made the playoffs. Like, what? We traded away our best player. What an amazing accomplishment for this team. If you draw the Thunder, there's a sense of urgency.
Yes.
Like, we got knocked out in the first round last year. We have something to prove, and they are one of only 6 teams in the NBA that has multiple All-Stars. Like, you're going to, not a lot of teams have the 2 guys, because one team in Golden State's got 5 of them. So there's not as many to go around. The Rockets have to be really internally disappointed about what happened last night. They controlled this entire game. The biggest lead the Thunder had was 2 points. The Rockets were up 13 going into the fourth quarter. And if the Rockets win, they are going to be the 2 seed. They are going to have their best possible path to facing the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals. It's not just now they could face OKC in the first round. It's now, depending on what happens with Portland and with Denver this evening, the Rockets could be the 4 seed and be looking at, because the Rockets season's over. That was their last game of the year last night. They could be looking at Golden State in round 2, which no matter how you spin it, if the Rockets go from Western Conference Finals losing to Golden State to this year's second round losing to Golden State, it will be considered a major disappointment, even if it's the same team knocking them out.
Yeah, and if all those people that you're jealous of because they vote on the MVP because you don't have a vote, we're working on that, young fella. But if all those people hold out their vote and you realize Giannis winning over 60 games, 1st seed in the NBA overall, and then now Houston's the 4th seed, does that affect a couple votes here or there? It should, because Giannis might be defensive MVP, so that would be the first note. My second note would be I would be concerned about Chris Paul and Harden and the matchups going against OKC, because I believe in a 5 to 7 game series that it would take its toll on them. Could they do that 4 times? Now, we know he might be able to do it 1 or 2 times. So Chris Paul, more in particular because of Harden, his workout regimen, and he has shown the overall endurance. But Paul George is going to make it tough for him. And I know Chris Paul, when they play against OKC, they try to have him guard some of the non-offensive players. But, man, Russ would wear him out physically over the course. So I don't like the matchups, and I believe that, OKC presents a number of problems, but for the backcourt of Houston, the toll that it would take on them for the whole series.
I mean, OKC, from 5 to 8, no team want to play them. They're at the back end of that, because they do have 2 All-Stars, because they do have Russ and Paul George, 2 guys that are very capable of winning games by themselves individually in a playoff series. But also, it's just a matchup. If you really think about it, they can switch 1 through 5. They can do the same thing. They both have centers that are mobile, that are active, which both teams pick and roll a lot. It's just a bad matchup in a 7-game series.
And the other element, and this is why I imagine folks in Houston were tossing and turning all night, the other element is if the Rockets win, this might sound obvious, the Thunder lose, right? The Thunder then would be in line for the 8 seed. That would mean all of a sudden Golden State with Steph Curry on maybe a bit of a gimpy foot, he's got to chase Russ around for a couple weeks.
And they're a little point.
That could be a 6-game series.
Of course,
right.
And they're a little more worn out. And they're a little now. OKC still could get the 8 seed, but it's going to take a lot of things to have to fall perfectly tonight. The Rockets were in position to have, despite the beginning of the season being such a disaster. Remember the Carmelo Anthony experiment? That blew up in their face. All the injuries were the 2 seed. We're going to play in the first round, either San Antonio, which has overachieved, or the Clippers, who have way overachieved, while Golden State's going to have to take on OKC, which is going to be a pain. Now they're staring at maybe they still could be the 2, but likely the 3, maybe the 4, and they've got to deal with the pain that is Oklahoma City. It was that final 2 minutes of the fourth quarter last night have a big impact, man. Russ was outstanding in the fourth. Harden had his worst quarter maybe of the year, didn't make a shot after playing well throughout the whole game. It's a huge missed opportunity for Houston, and if that be the taste in their mouth going in the playoffs, it just, depending on how tonight falls, they could regret it majorly.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.